On a loop.
What's up, guys? Welcome to Bold Chat, the live stream presented by Network Access Group. Thank you so much for tuning in today, especially with the holidays coming up. I appreciate it. Appreciate you guys being here. Can you believe that it's almost the holidays? It's great. It's especially crazy being in Florida right now, experiencing this, because I've been in New York City for the past 12 years, and being in Florida now, the weather is gorgeous. It's like in the 80s, and I'm like, what? Thanksgiving is next week. So anyways, thank you guys so much for being here, for tuning in. Thanks to Network Access Group for, making this possible. Please, if you haven't already, click on the link in my bio and follow over on Rumble so you don't miss any streams, any podcast episodes. Today, I'm super excited about our topics and guests who are way more knowledgeable on these topics than I am. But we're going to be talking some about unemployment, AI, birth rates, and kind of how they're all connected. So yeah, let's bring up, we've got Adam Coleman here, who just wrote a spectacular article on some of these topics. And Jay, thank you guys so much for joining. Please share out the stream as well. That would be amazing. And feel free to interact with us in the chat. I definitely, with the expertise of these guys, would, welcome questions, comments, because, they've got the deets, they've got the info. So thank you. So unemployment, guys, the unemployment rate came in at 4.4%, which was slightly higher than anticipated. I guess was expected at like 4.3. It's the highest it's been in several years. I'm sure, Adam, because of your article, you just wrote this spectacular article in the New York Post about sort of the connection, like, combination of AI, robotics, and how that's leading to, or going to rapidly lead to an employment apocalypse, rendering jobs obsolete. So I'm sure there's some connection in your mind there. Are there other things going on with unemployment that we think? What do you guys think?
Yeah. One, thank you for having me back on. I think we are, maybe for like the past year, we've been in the midst of a rapid change in our work environments. It's not just AI, it's not just robotics, although the robotics part is seeping its way into the workforce slowly but surely. Um, but there's massive layoffs that have been happening, I would say, for at least a year. Whether it's 10,000, 20,000, 30,000. There's a couple of YouTube accounts that I follow, and it feels like every week they're like new layoffs. Doge, for example, cut a lot of jobs. Some of them we agree that they should be cut, right? But at the end of the day, someone lost their job, right? So there's been a lot of changes that have happened. Um, you could say since the start of the administration, but maybe even before that, where employers have been laying off people. Maybe some of it was due to in response to inflation. Maybe some of it is in response to technological changes with AI. What I can tell you is that the uh, the computer taking our job, through artificial intelligence, is not a future problem. It is a current problem, and it's only going to get worse. I have a friend of mine who's very much so into this topic. Spent his career in marketing, and he says, "Man, I'm seeing it now. It's like people who are marketing professionals are out of a job. Like they just can't get a job. Um, Whereas before they had clients who would come to them, now the clients are turning towards AI to do the voiceover work, to even just come up with a strategy for the marketing campaign, right? They're leaning heavily into artificial intelligence. One, because it's become so accessible, and the advancement of artificial intelligence. Before, it just seemed like it was a prompt from ChatGPT, and it's like this thing that people heard of. And now all of a sudden, all the big players have it. It's accessible. It's relatively easy to use. Um, and it's getting even more advanced as time goes on. Microsoft has Pilot. Obviously Elon has Grok, ChatGPT. There are others that are coming up, and others that are coming up that are industry specific. So there are a lot of technological changes. There are a lot of economic changes that are happening as well. But none of this surprises me. I actually I thought we would have seen something worse earlier, because I just kept seeing massive layoffs coming from major companies for quite some time.
Yeah, I mean, I think the unemployment numbers, they reflect a lot of the issues with the federal and the shutdown and people applying for unemployment that were maybe losing a paycheck or something and not waiting around for that. But the thing with the AI and the ethics surrounding it that Elon is pushing, I think he has the right idea. However, we need ethical people in Congress and in the governments to help support that, right? And
Yeah.
when we're talking about our government specifically, the average age of congressman is 59 years old. The average age of senator, I think, is 64 years old. Most of them don't even understand what they're even talking about, what they're voting on, what the complications are of the things that they're doing. So, and not that I don't even think many of them really even care to get a grasp around it. The smart people out in industry, people like Adam doing articles on this, you guys are the ones that are kind of driving this and making people aware. I don't think that they actually care to do anything to solve it, and that's bipartisan. That's
Yeah.
not hitting on one side or the other. I honestly don't think they are, and which is a scary thing. When they're pushing things like universal basic income and things like that, things that really we don't want, they're going to sell people on this because they're going to be afraid. When they start to see these things disappear, they're going to grasp that. They're going to look for something. They're going to look for a sanctuary, a savior, and that's where they're going to push these things, and we're going to be in a lot of trouble because nobody's thinking about it enough. And that's what you had a fantastic article too. And
Thank you.
really it brings up, it makes people think about this. And so I appreciate you putting that out there because it was awesome.
Thank you. No, I do appreciate you saying that. It was something that I had been thinking about for quite some time. When we look at, and I was kind of detailing in the article, but like when we look at Mamdani, right? And while a lot of people are in disbelief, maybe they don't live, in the New York area, so they're in disbelief how this could possibly be the case. Um, And everyone's just blaming, the Brooklynites or the, uh, you know, the wealthy upper class, which that's part of their constituency. Um, but I think it's deeper than that. And we look at the squad, we look at all these different people, and they have prominence within the Democratic Party. And why is that the case? And it's because they at least identify what the problem is. It's their solutions that I have issues with, right? But they're not wrong that there are genuine issues within New York City. It is too expensive, right? There is public corruption. There are things that are legitimately happening. People are losing their jobs. So there's a lot that they're right about. They're just usually dead wrong when it comes to solution. But most people care about, like, you identify what the problem is. Their solution is universal basic income, which they don't fully understand. Part of the reason why socialist societies fail is not just because the government can't manage all this, blah, blah, blah. It's that they set up an environment where they kill incentives, right? The United States is the innovator of the world as we currently sit because we are lined up with incentives. There's an incentive for you to come up with a new product that everyone, not just in America, but around the world would potentially want, right? But in other countries, those incentives are crushed, right? There is no incentive for you to come up with that because you're going to be over regulated. Someone's going to crush your idea. Someone's going to take your idea. You won't even get off the floor with that idea. So there is something absolutely special about the United States when it comes to innovation. And it's because we have all different types of incentives. Doctors, well, we have critiques about our healthcare system, 100%, and absolutely right. But I do find it not a good thing that if you go to Western Europe, that the doctors don't really make that much. Now, they go through the same amount of education. Maybe they don't necessarily spend as much for their education, right? But it's rigorous. It's a lot of work that they have to go through. I had a friend who left the UK to move to Canada because he's like, man, I'm not making that much. I got to take care of family and things like that. And I'm like, man, you're not making that much. I've never heard a doctor who's complaining about his income, right? But that's the reality. You set up an environment where you have socialized medicine within the UK, right? And then the government gets to regulate how much you make, right? So where is the incentive? It's gone. And then over time, people complain about the service because all the incentives have been taken away. So, that's one of the massive issues that socialists don't want to understand or don't understand, is that incentives really do matter. And that's what has really driven our society for many, many decades.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. The thing is too is like the watering down of skills. As AI picks up some of these tasks or whatever, your skills are worth a lot less. And where we can see, huge issues with the watering down of skills is say in India, right?
Mhm.
Most everybody goes to college in India. They have advanced degrees. They go to, they get master's degrees. They get all these whatever. And you're talking about like biochemists and stuff like that. And I would see them like in Saudi Arabia. There was, and I'm going to just use this as an example. He was working in a pottery shop. He had a master's degree in biochemistry, but because his skills are worth absolutely nothing there, because everybody goes to college, it's all watered down. And I think that's what a lot where we're going to see with the AI. Your skills are worth nothing. That AI can do it for way less money, and it's way more reliable. You can work 24/7. You don't ever have to worry about it. And so your skills are worth absolutely nothing, even if you have some advanced skills. We're going to see the same thing happening here. It's going to water everything down, and then people are really going to struggle. I don't know. I don't know that we could stop it at this point. I don't know that, it's like politics, when you see it going like the the both sides of the spectrum, like the more polarized it gets, the more, the the more it swings back and forth, and it's not going to come back to the center. It's going to keep going hard, and we can't stop it. Like I don't see a good way to stop this, and I don't see a good way to stop the AI either, because the industry is going to facilitate it. They're going to make sure it happens, and I think it gets even further complicated with Web3. I think I think we have even harder time controlling it at that point. So I don't know. I don't have a good answer for it.
But you know what I predict in the future? I predict, yes, we're going to go, it's going to be one of those things that we go all into. And then at some point we realize, ooh, we went a little bit too far with this. And it's not even necessarily for the reasons like what we're talking about. It's like there's just too many unemployed people and stuff like that. I think it's just going to be that we're going to realize that no one likes uh, a humanless society, because there are certain things that we just kind of take for granted. We saw a video going around where they're starting to have it where you, and I think it was in New York City, where you go into a store and instead of having a cashier, it's prompting going to someone who's in another country to take an order. And while this is not AI, like that's a weird, like you're looking at a woman who's in Thailand or in the Philippines or something like that, and she's taking your order in New York. Some stuff like that is something that people don't want to deal with. In the same way, like when it comes to artificial intelligence, there's going to be things where they're going to put artificial prompts in front of us, and it's just going to piss people off. And it may even create an industry like, I will buy from whoever does not have this bullshit.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask, that's one of the questions I wanted to ask you, Adam, is like, have you seen, or do you think there will be pushback from the lack of human interaction, like people being upset by that, wanting that human interaction? So it's interesting that you said that, like, and how that might impact the process.
I think so. Maybe it'll be in specific sectors. I mean, this is purely speculation, so I don't have any evidence of this. But I just know human beings, right? When we all started calling companies, we didn't get a person, but we now had to deal with press this for this, press that for that. And then they want to try and fix your problem by talking into a prompt that asks you to repeat it because it didn't catch what you said, right? I can't tell you. I remember because I used to do tech support for a telecommunications company. I remember one time I picked up the phone, and the first thing this guy said, "That bitch," and I was like, "Whoa, what's going on?" He was talking about the female voice prompt, right? He was just so angry after dealing with that. No one likes it. And so I've noticed that there seems to be less and less of that, where it's like, all right, which department do you want? Blah, blah, blah. Okay. And then it sends you over. They're doing less of that. But before, it was it just wouldn't even let you get around it. You'd press 0 and it's like, I'm sorry, we need more info. It's just, that is starting to go away. But because I think the satisfaction of human beings is that I want to talk to a person.
Mm-hmm.
Like, help me out here. So yeah, maybe that will be a case in the future.
Yeah, I think something you were speaking to earlier. I mean, you had so many your article is amazing. I pulled it up. I'll pull it up again. If people haven't seen it, please check it out. The New York Post. So many great points. But you were speaking to, like, how quickly this has all sort of happened. Because I can remember, it doesn't feel like that long ago I was having conversations with my friends about AI. We were kind of laughing, like with Chat GPT and certain things, you're like, oh, it's not, but how clever it's gotten and how much better, and how the advancements, how quickly and rapidly they've happened is pretty terrifying. Like how quickly it can all happen.
That's the thing. That's why I said, like in the article, this isn't the GM plant coming up with a robot that can put the tire on the car, right? There's always been technological advancements that have eliminated jobs, but it's been a small amount, and it's been very sector related, and there's enough time to kind of mitigate the loss, right? So there's enough people where they can do something else or get re-educated for something else and move about. But when you have it being multi-industry, when you have multi-sectors, where they're just all in. Like they're just diving all in and just getting rid of it. White collar and blue collar, all at the same time. No one is safe. You still have kids who are going to college, spending $80,000 to $120,000 to get a bachelor's degree, who are coming out, who are going to not only compete against each other, but compete against a computer that can think faster than you can, and it's cheaper. So like we're setting up a very unfair environment in the near future. And if I can say something, and so people understand, my background is in tech. So it's not that I don't like technology or anything like that. Because my background is in tech, I'm very skeptical of tech, and as in like the necessity of it. Elon and others, their biggest problem is that they think only efficiency matters. So doing things for efficiency's sake is the only thing that matters in a circumstance. And when that is your mindset, then you skip over human beings, you skip over morals, you skip over all these different things. It's like when you see these scientists from China who are like, if it wasn't for ethics, we would have had way more advancements in medical medicine. And I'm like, yeah, thank God for ethics.
Yeah,
Right.
we like ethics.
Right. And but we don't have that same mentality when it comes to tech. Like we don't have that limiting. Do we really need a AI robotic restaurant? No, we don't. Does that enhance the experience for the people who are there? No, because they're not thinking about us as the user. They're thinking about efficiency, right? They're thinking about cost. They're thinking about everything else except for the actual people who are going to interact with it. So Elon has the privilege, and all these other people, sorry to only use Elon, but he's the biggest name that we can use. But all these other people have the privilege of not suffering suffering the turmoil of all of these technological advancements. I look at truckers. Elon is like, soon we'll have trucks that can drive themselves. And the first thing that runs in my mind is when a man makes mistakes in his life, goes to jail, comes out, and wants to reform his life, one of the big things they do is go get a CDL, become an independent operator, and he can make his money, and he is reforming himself so he can be a contributing member to society. And he's effectively eliminating that path for that type of person who may have a hard time getting a job elsewhere. But you know what? He can get a CDL, he can get on the road, and he can try to reform his life. And he wants to take that away. Why? Because a robot can be cheaper, or AI can do it and it'll be cheaper. I mean, they're not thinking about the people. The problem with trucking hasn't been efficiency. It hasn't. The problem with trucking is about how much money can I save in costs. But throughout, I don't know, the argument is always about the workers, right? The workforce, how much does it cost to employ people? I think there are many ways that the government could make things cheaper to employ people. We can lower taxes so we can employ more people. You can set up incentives so we can employ more people. We can enforce, stop hiring illegal immigrants so we can employ more American citizens. We don't need to go all in technology, but this, I absolutely hate efficiency for efficiency's sake. Like, I am perfectly fine with the invention of the remote control to change the television. Okay, I'm fine with that. I am not fine with, and my wife has these all over the damn house. We have all these Alexas in every room that I got to talk to the thing. It takes me longer to talk to it than I could have just pressed the button on the remote, or I could have just walked into the other room and turned on the light, right? And we think we're setting up this world of efficiency, and it actually makes us less efficient. Like, there are all different types of side effects to it. Now I got a machine with a microphone that listens to all our conversations. And I got to argue with my wife and tell her, like, it is listening to our conversation. No, it's not listening. It's just waiting for its name to be called. I was like, how does it know when its name's being called? It's because it's listening. Like, I have to get into these arguments with her about it, and we laugh about it. But like, this is the type of world that we're setting up. The technocrats are ridiculously affecting our work life. And one last thing I'll say is, while the finger has been pointing at Elon in this conversation, we have to point a major finger at Amazon. Amazon set up itself as I think the #2 employer in America, and it has warehouses all across this country. Warehouses in places where maybe they used to have factory jobs that just disappeared and no one gave a shit about. But now they have warehouses there, and they're employing people and giving people an opportunity to take care of themselves and take care of their family. The richest country, one of the richest companies in the world is like, you know what? We could use some more money. Let's just replace everybody with robots. And that's what their plan is. Their plan is to have a workforce that is 75% automation, and that means AI with robots.
So I want to highlight Mickey Mouse's comment. I think most of us hate the non-human. Like I feel like we can all relate to your example of that, of being on the phone with customer service and wanting to get to a human.
Right.
So agreed. Yeah, Adam, you've done such a good job of highlighting, how we are, and in your article as well, but just in general, how we're sort of told to celebrate, tech advancement, all this stuff, and you really show the repercussions and potential consequences that are often ignored.
Yeah.
It's funny because you were talking about Elon, and I actually do have a little clip. So, same mindset. I'm going to play it real quick and see if you want to elaborate at all on thoughts about what he says here.
Yeah, like in the long term, where will things end up? Long term, I don't know what long term is. Maybe it's 10, 20 years, something like that. For me, that's long term. My prediction is that work will be optional. I mean, it'll be like playing sports or a video game or something like that. If you want to work, in the same way, like you can go to the store and just buy some vegetables, or you could grow vegetables in your backyard. It's much harder to grow vegetables in your backyard, but some people still do it because they like growing vegetables. That will be what work is like, optional.
Yikes.
I mean, Jay, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of issues with that because we have to buy things. We have to have a house. We have mortgages. Now we're gonna have potentially 50-year mortgages. How are you gonna pay that 50-year mortgage when you have no money, no way to earn it? You can't grow vegetables to pay that off. So that's a real issue. And it's I don't know. I don't know. There's a lot of problems with what he was saying, but in terms of like from his standpoint, the CEO cares about his company growing or whatever and expanding or whatever. Then what he's saying is right, but the human factor is missed there, and people are going to get left out, and people are already struggling. Gosh, could you imagine things getting worse for them? I mean, like kids coming out of college and they can't afford a house already as it is. I have 2 teenagers myself, and this is a big concern of mine. This is why I push them to engineering, because it may not have been their first choice for degree plan, but they need to be able to make stuff in order to survive and to have some value. And so that's why I push them towards that. It just, I have I like a lot of what Elon says a lot of times, and I like him as an innovator and stuff like that. But there's big red flags with that, what he just said right there.
Yeah, and I agree with you. When you have people who care more about things than people, but they're in a position where it widely affects people, like that is a detrimental situation to set up. Elon, and I get it. Like I'm a tech guy too. I like messing around with tech shit. Like I like fidgeting with stuff. I get it. But when you have that much money and you're in that position, you should take some consideration as to where you're headed towards. Like sometimes I feel like we're headed towards the Terminator movie, like where the robots figure out how do you fix the human issue? Well, you got to get rid of them. Right. And he's going to facilitate that. And we're going to come to a point where he's going to realize, oops, I think I went a little too far. And that by that point, it's too late. But this idea, like, there is so much. I really wish these people understood human beings. Like, I think of men. We'll just use men as an example. Not saying this doesn't apply to women, but men need a purpose. They just do. We need a thing. When we don't have a thing to do, we feel useless. We were put on this earth to affect each other in many ways, and to have some sort of purpose that we're supposed to move about this world to affect things. Look at people who retire. How many times have you heard someone retired and not long afterwards they die, right? Or the people where they could retire and they stay working. Why? Because they have a routine and they have a purpose. Because we're not designed necessarily to sit at home and watch TV 24 hours a day, even if you can. Like, that's not what we're made for. It's why our bodies wither away when we don't use it. The person who is sitting in a coma literally is atrophying, right? Their body is withering away because we're supposed to do things. We're supposed to be active. We're supposed to have all these things at our hands that we're supposed to affect the world with. And when someone's saying, no, it's optional, you don't have to do it, what he's saying is you won't actually be able to do the thing anyways.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So this isn't about, hey, you want to be a firefighter? You want to be an engineer? Go out there and be somebody. This is, well, if it's available, right? Because now we have robot firefighters that can't die from, if they get burned, it doesn't matter. We'll just replace the robot firefighter now. Like, this is where we're headed towards. And we're going to set up an environment where there's way more suicides. There's a lot more miserable people. And the complete irony, and what I point out in the article, the irony is that he acted like a big belligerent baby when the federal government didn't shrink the federal government as much as he wanted it to be. What do you think you're about to set up? You're setting up an environment where people have no other choice but to look towards the federal government and say, help me out here. And we're already seeing that. When the government shut down, we have 40% of the American public cannot eat without the government's help. Now, some of that is fraudulent. Got it. But even if it's 10% fraudulent, 30% of Americans cannot eat without the federal government. That is a problem. And it's only going to get worse. And it's going to move beyond food stamps. It's going to move towards, and they want it, universal basic income.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
good. It contradicts to his what he says about population decline, right? Well, if we increase the population, with the population decline is supported by what he's talking about there. Tech taking over, tech doing more, tech being the workforce, right? That's population declining would actually fit better with that. But he's not. He's talking about, population decline is an issue. We need to have more babies and stuff like that. He's a huge he talks about it often. And so when you're talking about increasing the population or not allowing it to decline, I mean, it's going to be an issue with the AI taking over more stuff. Where is the income going to come from? These companies are not just going to bow down and say, okay, well, you no longer have a mortgage, you no longer owe us money anymore. Like, that's just not going to happen, right? They're not just going to walk away from that. You're talking about multi-trillion-dollar industries. They want their money. They're going to get their money. And so we're going to have to find a way to provide that. And it's not going to come from the government. We can't just just produce money out of nothing. Like, it just doesn't work that way. So there's a lot missed in what he's talking about there.
Yeah, that's such a good point about purpose. From a mental health perspective, my most recent job was working in an alternative to incarceration program. And I was working with young people, 16 to 27. And it was and I do think it's a pretty overall common theme that we need purpose in our lives. And having that purpose definitely helps with our mental health. And when we don't have that, there's definitely more depression and other, mental health concerns and issues. So I think that's such an important point and something that I completely agree with, because I saw it time and time again when the young people, who had either spent time in jail or because their criminal records were affecting, which is something you spoke to earlier, when that was interfering with their ability to get jobs, which was really sad to see because a lot of them wanted to be working and were actively trying. And, you know, the system, their backgrounds were affecting that. And there was a lot of depression and anxiety and worries and stress around that. And, you know, just having that purpose. And so, yeah, there's definitely it's such a great point, the connection there.
Life would become a
And
prison. Life
yeah,
would become in a fully automated, fully AI, life would be a prison. Like it wouldn't be the same as it is now. You wouldn't have free will to do everything you want to do. You wouldn't be able to buy and sell a home. You wouldn't be able to, you know, choose different career or anything. Like it's going to be a prison. You're going to get stuck in whatever it is they're having you going to do or whatever. And, you know, it's not going to be this free and open society. You're not going to be able to travel as much. Like I don't know. I don't know why we would work towards that. It's just doesn't make sense. It doesn't compute. For me, it's not logical.
and you know what's funny? That clip that he just showed, Angela just showed of Elon. It's funny because he sounds like the socialists. Because they say we need socialism, and with socialism, you'll be able to become the painter you always wanted. like if communism just popped up, you get to go be some dancer, right? You don't have to worry about your bills. And I'm just like, man, it's the same utopian idea, right? He's just not saying communism or socialism, but he's setting up an environment where you have the option to work if you want to. And we all know what that means. That means that you may not be able to work. You may not be able to do the very thing you think you're going to be able to do. And I've said this multiple times. When we had an influx of illegal immigrants coming through our southern border, I've always said the hardest thing to do is manage people, right? If you're a manager at a company, it is difficult to manage people, right? And that's just in an 8-hour window when they're at work. And these are people who are responsible and relatively responsible and they're employed. Imagine trying to manage people who have no job, who have no resources, and can't feed themselves, right? That's what we saw when Biden took office. We saw an influx of people entering New York, Chicago, all these different cities who can't feed themselves, who often don't know the language. They can't take care of themselves. They can't house themselves. They can't feed themselves, right? We had mini socialism for the illegals in this country in a heavy way for quite some time. And we saw how well that went. And that's not with 100 million people, right? We have 330 million people that we know of. I always say that we know of, asterisks, in this country. How are we supposed to manage all those people? How are we supposed to manage half of them? Let's say half of the American public can't get a job. Obviously that's including children. So let's say half of American adults can't get a job. How are we supposed to manage all those people? Like, it's impossible. It will fail. It will fall flat on its ass. But we're going to use technology to get close to that point. And we don't even need to come to half. We don't even need to come to quarter of Americans. We're talking about 4.4% unemployment. And we're saying like, hey, that's high. What's going to happen when we hit 15?
Yeah.
Like that 15, 20% is what you see in third world nations. That's what they're setting up. And by the way, when they show that it's 3%, 4% unemployment, if you have a job, then you're considered employed. But we don't take into account people who are underemployed, right? The guy who doesn't make that much money in his job, so he has to work doing Uber, right? Or the guy whose only job he can find is working for Uber, right? And he's just trying to make it through, even though he has like 20 hours of equivalent of work hours, right? And he's barely, getting by. Well, that guy's employed, right? So if you have any sort of income coming in from any sort of employer, then you're considered employed. So all the people who have 2-3 jobs who are trying to get by, they don't count in the same way. Like it's not the same thing. So there are a lot of people who are underemployed, and they're just getting by. And when we look at the average salary, the average income, household income, you would think since, was it 20 years ago, that it's increased a dramatic amount, or has even kept up with inflation, and it hasn't, right? It's barely moved. So I'm looking, we can't be surprised why they chose Donald Trump to be the president in 2016. Like, I get it. He was the only one who seemed to acknowledge what's going on for the lower income and the people in middle America. Like, they're the ones who are being affected by this. So I don't know. I see we're at a weird point in history where, I'll just say, personally speaking, I finally saw. I didn't vote for Trump the first time around. This time I voted for Trump because we saw what happened when you don't take care of immigration under Biden, right? And I saw how detrimental. I live in New Jersey, so I saw how detrimental that was in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to secure the border. He came in and virtually secured the border in a matter of like a week or two, right? So we saw the need for that. Now we're seeing we have to create a fair environment for people to gather to get work. But now I think we're at a point where we're looking at just the typical workforce. But now we have to have the conversation about technological advancement erasing the workforce. And I don't know if anyone is prepared for that conversation, because if you notice, all the tech overlords have made themselves very comfortable cozying up to Donald Trump. And those people are very much so into artificial intelligence.
Adam, I want to get your thoughts on this comment from the chat.
Yeah.
About boomers aging out and not having enough labor to support the world without the efficiency / tech, with your tech expertise.
I'm, because my monitor is far away. So
it's just something ignores a very real issue we have coming over the next couple of decades. With boomers aging out, we don't have enough labor to support the world without the efficiency / tech.
So that's a fair comment. What I would say is I think it's sector specific. So I use the example of coming up with a machine to put a tire on a car instead of having to have a person do that, right? Because they can take that person and have them do something else, right? Or maybe that person is just obsolete for that particular industry. He goes somewhere else and becomes useful. My concern is that this isn't an industry issue. This is industries. This is a wide point of making it so it's not just about efficiency, it's about cost. And I'm very concerned about that. I'm not fully buying that we are in shortage of people. I'm not fully buying that. I think we've set up a culture where we're sending people in the wrong direction. We're telling if you think about it, the marker of success for every kid who goes to public school, which I think, most kids go to public school, the marker of success for those kids is if they go to college. And so we have all these colleges that exist today, and most of them probably didn't exist when I was a kid, right? Because it just became this massive industry, and the federal government is financing it and setting up these forever loans for people, right? We've set the wrong direction for everyone. Not everyone needs a bachelor's degree in bullshit studies. Not everyone needs a master's degree for most things, right? We need to redirect where people are going. And I know people are like, get on the AI train or else it leaves you. There are plenty of things that we still need people for, and we'll probably always need people for. I don't think we're anywhere close to coming to a point where robots are going to be building houses. My son, he wants to be an electrician. I don't think he's being replaced by a robot anytime soon, right? So there's going to be plenty of jobs where human beings are needed. Mike Rowe has been sounding the alarm bell for quite some time. We have jobs available for people right now. It's that everyone has been educated in the wrong areas. No one's being pointed in this particular direction. And no one's even being told. Like, I know what Mike Rowe is saying because I pay attention to different things. But do you think the average 18, 17-year-old knows that there are six-figure salary jobs waiting for them if they didn't go to college and just went here to an apprenticeship where they'll train you and you'll have a job and you'll get paid and your pay will increase over time? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think this is entirely the boomers are dying off. I think there needs to be a realignment in culture and where kids are going, and the importance of higher education, because I just don't see it. I didn't go to college, right? I went to tech school. But every time I talk to someone who goes to college and I ask them, like, what did you learn in college? They're like, not much, really. And I was like, what is this for? What is it? I can tell you what I learned in tech school, right? But like, why did you go? Why are you spending all this money? Why are we sending all these kids to be strapped? I'll tell you this. My son is 20 now, but the only thing I've ever worried about for my son was if he wants to go to college, is it fair for me as a father who's supposed to protect his son? Is it fair for me to be like, yeah, go to college because then people will think you're successful? Is that fair? Because I know he's entering a world as an adult with $60, $80, $100,000 of debt for a piece of paper, and there's zero guarantee that he'll come out with a job. Does that seem like it's a good risk for any kid to put up? The old blind optimism, go to college and you just get a job. I think Jay said it before. Well, when you flood the market with college degrees, it becomes useless. It's worthless. So why are we pointing kids in that direction? So if they're going to compete against rapidly advanced technology, AI, robotics, and things like that, we need to steer kids in a direction where humans are actually going to be needed. And there's always going to be someone who's going to be managing the AI. But trust and believe, they're not trying to build an administrative state that manages AI. They're trying to have just enough people, because they're always looking at workforce and the size of workforce, just enough supervisors, just enough people who can watch the AI do its thing and it doesn't lose control. But we need to radically realign where kids are going, starting today. I mean, I think we should have done this years ago. And I'm glad my son, just by being honest with my son, say, like, listen, if you want to go to college, go to college. But like, just understand, like, 60,000 is a lot. 80,000 is a lot. This is what you're setting yourself for. Is it worth it? And let him make the decision. If he wanted to go to college, he would have gone. But he realized, because I was honest with him, that he's like, it's not worth it. He wants to be an electrician instead. So, as I say, there you go. Send you love.
We love you too.
I talk too much.
No. Please talk. You have all the this is I'm so happy to have you to talk about this, because I don't know, you're a wealth of knowledge when it comes to all of this. But yeah, thank you guys so much for reposting the stream. Thanks for the love. Well, your son is lucky to have you, Adam, to point him in the right directions related to all of this. It kind of speaks to, I was going to ask you, you mentioned a few sort of industries that are a little maybe safer. I was going to say, like, are there is everyone, at risk, or are there certain industries that are a little like, safer or like less affected? You mentioned some. I think like the industries most affected are sort of like customer service, clerical, data processing, maybe retail, and some creative type jobs. Sounds like you're saying more tech, trade kind of things are maybe less impacted in the near future.
As of now, in the near future. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, aviation is a good example. That's the field I'm in. And, aircraft mechanics, right? It's a very visual process. You have to see, you have to diagnose, you can look at problems you see or whatever with the airplane or whatever, there's no robot that you can train to do that. It's a very visual thing. You need a human being on there. The flip side of that is production. When they produce airplanes and stuff like that, they're starting to use AI. They're starting to use automated riveting and stuff like that, and they're replacing humans. However, once the plane is an airplane, the humans take back over, and you cannot replace them in that. I don't see how you could ever do that unless you made airplanes into the like this modular thing where you could replace component like that. There's no other way to do it. So I don't see that happening anytime soon. Aviation is should be a very safe industry for many people.
I mean, could you imagine? You just had me think about something. Could you imagine robot pilots driven by AI?
Right. Yeah, it doesn't work. You need the human
Yeah.
thing. And the thing is like, like I guess whatever Sully, when he made the decisions or whatever, like these were very human decisions that he was making on his own or whatever. And like there are some things that, checklists or whatever, or you could program it to do something or whatever, but it can't feel. It can't there's certain things that it just cannot do like a human can do. And so, pilots is another great example of they just cannot be replaced by robots. It doesn't work. And humans are flawed. We have issues with, people or whatever, or, potentially, a pilot could show
So
up
is
drunk
technology.
yeah.
Right. In that, yes, humans are flawed. Absolutely. 100%. So is technology. I'm
Yeah.
so sick and tired of people acting like AI is perfect, technology is perfect, never has a problem. Why do we have tech support if technology is perfect? Like,
Yeah.
I would be scared to death if we did have robot AI pilots who miscalculate something or who say, well, the odds are that we're going to crash, so I'm just going to steer it into the ground anyways. Yeah, that's just my gripe when it comes to stuff like this. We have tech support for a reason. We have technicians for a reason, because technology fails all the time. Whenever I hear, this is new technology that's coming into place and it's going to figure out all this stuff, and it's like, yeah, but what happens when it stops working? Like, what's the redundancy, right? And what's going to happen with the redundancy? Because technology fails all the time. It's not perfect. Even with Grok, I can't tell you how many times I put in something to Grok, and Grok tells me something like, I don't think that's right. And then I ask it, I said, hey, man, I just looked. That's not correct. Yeah, you're right. It wasn't right. I was just putting a placeholder. I was like, what? Like, it's just AI lies all the time because it doesn't want to disappoint the user. So it just gives them information. Like, that's not good. That's a failure in my mind. So like, technology fails all the time. So yes, human beings are flawed, but so is technology. Why? Because human beings make technology. Like, it's going to fail. Like, it fails all the time.
Fun fact, AI has been used in a number of capacities since the mid-70s. Its usefulness has increased in the last decade, but it's been there for a while. Is this something you guys were aware of? Yeah, I'm sure Adam was aware. I didn't realize it, but...
Right, but it's like anything. Listen, the microprocessor, like, we've always had microchips, right? But the microprocessor was the game changer, right? There's always a point where there's a massive advancement point. The internet, as we know it, existed, right? But then there was a massive advancement point where it just skipped ahead. And so we're at that point today where it's one thing to have AI in a very particular industry, and it was probably very expensive, and very limited amount of people were actually creating it and programming it. But when you make it rather seamless, when you make it accessible and you make it cheaper, and when you make it user friendly, especially, that's when sky's the limit. I didn't even mess with AI until Grok, because it seemed actually rather user friendly. So I started using it. It's good for sourcing stuff, but I don't trust it. I check it all the time when it gives me information because I've caught it lying, giving me bad info, bad links to stuff. And like, what's the quote for this? And I'm like, all right, can you source it to the article? It gives me an article link. I go through the article. That quote is nowhere in that article. I say, hey man, where's that quote coming from? You know, it lies all the time, gives bad information all the time. So that's my
Yeah. So this is another just article, but it kind of also speaks to your article, Adam. The numbers are pretty staggering. Like you had referenced that Amazon projected 75% of jobs to be automated by 2033, right?
Yeah. That's not that long away.
Yeah. Yeah. So that is yeah, pretty terrifying. And like we said, how quickly this all can happen, the employment apocalypse, as you called it.
Yeah. And I wish, listen, I'm not one of those people who just wants to be right about stuff. I wish I am wrong about this. I wish like Adam was just being an alarmist. I hope I am wrong, but I don't feel that I am. And that's what worries me. And like I said, this isn't an issue of the future. This is happening right now. I know of people who are watching the changes. Even mainstream. I was watching. I think it was 60 Minutes Australia was talking about artists, voice artists, even authors, where AI is taking their book and writing it in the way that that this author, who writes in a very unique way, would write it. And that's another thing when it comes to AI. AI, human innovation, I think we are downplaying. Like human ingenuity, how we think, we say like thinking outside the box, taking risks. Like these aren't things that machines necessarily are programmed for, right? But sometimes you have to take a risk. That's what human beings do. And I feel like, and maybe this will change in the future, but AI often feels stale to me. It's just like when teachers can see, like, I know when the student uses AI because it talks a particular way. It's very stale. There's no creativity behind it. And when I write, I have like these spell checks and stuff like that, and it says, "Oh, you might want to use this word and change it this way." I'm like, no, I want that word in there, right? Because then it's like everybody else's, and that's there is something about using technology because technology wants to be right. It wants to be perfect. It doesn't take things into account as far as being creative, outside the box. Using stuff in a way that a flawed human being might use it. So, I think I am worried about that. I am worried about our society becoming deader because we just run to the machine. The machine isn't creative whatsoever. And all it's doing is just taking stuff that's already existed and replicating it. And that's basically it. And so if that's all we do, well, there's no advancement. Honestly, that's what's happening in all these other industries outside of AI. That's what's happening in all these industries in the arts, right? They make the millionth Marvel movie because it's safe, right? They publish the same authors over and over because it's safe. It costs less. It's less risk. Everyone becomes risk avoidant, but then it's dead. Then there are no movies like The Fight Club. Like then there is nothing that is outside the box. Then there is nothing creative. And I think technology will set the. I mean, I think it's already doing it. It's setting up an environment where it's just stale. When people use it and heavily use it, it's just predictable, stale, not really that creative because that's not really what it's good at. At least as of right now, it's not really good at that.
That's what I was going to say. Like that, I found that as well. And I think, coming from the TV and film industry, that was a big conversation with the strikes when we were trying to fight, negotiate for AI to not be able to replace actors because there is that whole human creative element to the arts and things like that. And let's say writing and, you know, mental health for me is like, can AI really do these things the same as a human can? It's missing that. But
Right.
to that point, we've been talking about the advancements happening so quickly. That part is scary because it's like you said, as of right now, it can't do, you know, and it's kind of laughable. Like I'm finding the same thing whenever I do use it, which isn't often. It is very predictable. It comes up with like the same words or like the same way of saying something that you're like, ugh, forget it.
Yeah. That's why when I use sometimes I use AI for like spell check, but I tell it, do not change the language.
Yeah.
Because I've seen where I'm like, what the hell is this? You know, so you have to tell it stuff like that because it just makes it stale. Like I know that's not the right way to do it, but you know what? It's creative and I want that word in there. And people are like, I like how you said that. That's different. Yeah, because I didn't use AI because it says this is not the right word. That's not how you do this, blah, 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 blah. It's like, no, I want it that way. I absolutely want it that way.
As a writer, I find the same thing. Like we have like a unique voice, all of us, right? We have this, so you don't want to lose that. I agree with you. I think it doesn't need to be perfect or like a certain way. I think it's kind of cooler to be different and have your own voice and spin and way of doing something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you also spoke to, I know both of you did. Jay mentioned it earlier. Adam, you mentioned it in the article as well, and also in previous streams about Congress being pretty uneducated when it comes to tech, and you know the fear around that in terms of protecting us as we look at all of this and what the future looks like. Is there anything else? I know you've mentioned some things, but is there anything else that we can do other than like speak about this and, I don't know, what can we do? Is there
Educate the public. Do exactly what Adam is doing. We have to educate the public because they're going to have to put the people in office that they want. They're going to have to bring up issues with things that we're seeing, things that we see coming down the pipeline. That is the only way it's going to happen. And that's when people talk about the influences for Congress and stuff like that, and how lobbyists a big voice and stuff, and they put money in their coffers, and so those are the people they listen to. Well, we're going to have to get loud about these things too. We're going to have to start speaking about, hey, this is an issue. Unless we start doing something, we got to get loud about it. That's the only way. It's not going to come from them. It's going to come from us.
And the other thing I want to say is we should not fall for bullshit rhetoric surrounding AI. I heard, and they say this about other things too, where they're like, well, if we don't go all in on it, then China will. Who cares about China? China does not survive without the United States. China steals our intellectual property. Like, why are we pretending that China leads us? We lead China, right? They're very much so the parasite off of us. We're the host. And okay, if they go all in AI, then that's what China's doing. We are more than prepared to protect our economy. There's a reason why we don't really sell a lot of cars in China, because China wants to protect its economy. We need to have that same type of attitude when it comes to specific industries. I have zero problem when it comes to protecting our markets. I am not a 100% free market person, because some things we see what happens when you let the world compete in your market. It is more important for you to protect your workforce than it is to get the absolute cheapest price product into your country. Sorry. In Jamaica, when they became independent, the IMF held a debt over their head. They said, well, you can open up your market. So they opened up their market, and the few industries that Jamaica had gone, because now people can get bananas from a different country, import it in, and sell it in Jamaica 10 cents cheaper. Was it worth it at that point? And we're seeing that in various countries, and even in the United States. We have to protect our market. I think what Trump is trying to do when it comes to tariffs, people don't necessarily like how he's doing it, but I appreciate what he is trying to do. He's trying to protect our markets. And we have to have that same attitude when it comes to China and any other country. Like, we lead the world, not the other way around. So I don't give a damn what China's doing. Often China's doing what we're doing. Like, they're just copying what we do. China, once again, communist nation, they're not good at innovation because they don't have the incentive structure to innovate properly. They do set up massive competition. So I don't know if a lot of people know this, but China might be like, hey, we're going all in on EV cars. And they say, well, we're going to throw a bunch of money into it. And they set up like the survival of the fittest. Who can come up with the best EV car, right? They think they're setting up an incentive structure, but they're not really doing that in a good way. What ends up happening is everyone rushes to create the technology. It crashes and burns because they're just taking money from the government. And when it crashes and burns, well, the people who are at the very top, they already got paid. If the product fails, it doesn't really matter. And then they move on to the next thing. And so what ends up happening is that this incentive structure that they set up is all about drifting off the government. And that's why EV cars are terrible in China. There's a reason also why you don't see a lot of EV cars anywhere outside of China. China exports just about everything, but EV cars. And part of the reason why is because they're trash. No one wants them. When you put them head to head with competitors, they are trash. And it's because their incentive structure is terrible. They're just not good at innovating stuff. They can copy stuff. They can get close. Something happened recently? Land Rover has like this, I don't know why these companies do this. I think it's so stupid. Land Rover has a joint relationship with a Chinese firm in China, and they built a sort of Land Rover-ish vehicle, right? They always build like these imitations that don't do well. Land Rover broke the record as far as going up I can't remember the name of the stairs, but like it's like these famous set of stairs. It's at a massive incline. Land Rover broke the record as far as speed and going up it. This Chinese company tried to do the same thing and made it up like 2 sets of stairs, crashed out, backed up, broke the railing, like this really old railing. It just looked terrible. It was terrible marketing for them. And it was just, once again, when they try to create stuff and compete against us, or even the outside world, they crash and burn every time. So when I see people say, well, China might do that, China doesn't do anything well. The only thing China does well is taking advantage of the weakness of the West. That's the only thing they do well.
Yeah, another good example would be military tech. China undercuts a lot of different things in sales in terms of that. But why are people still buying American helicopters? Why are people still buying American vehicles? Why are they still buying all this stuff? Because our stuff is way better. It's going to last longer. It's going to last 50 years. Whereas the Chinese stuff, it's probably going to be broken down in a couple of years and it'll be useless. So they're looking for, that's another great example of what you just said right there is our stuff is way more reliable. Our tech is way more advanced. People, this is a completely different subject, but people often talk about going kinetic with China and stuff like that. China cannot compete with us military. I know they have a huge military. I know they have a lot of equipment. They have a lot of dangerous stuff. But the thing is like tech-wise, our stuff is far superior to theirs. They can never compete with us on that. And if we went force on force, we would absolutely demolish them. They know that. We know that. Just they don't do it well. Like just you set it up right there too.
Yeah.
So Adam, you've already spoken about political and social, impacts, consequences related to all of this, and a potential increase in socialists being elected due to people running the government for survival. What role, and you've kind of already spoken to this, is there anything else you wanted to say about what role this all might play in electing more figures like Zoran Mamdani?
Yeah, I think, it just depends on how bad things get. Like I said, I hope I'm 100% wrong. But if things get worse, if it goes from whispers into shouting when it comes to jobs being taken by AI, like right now, it's at a weird phase where it's like, hey, I can't get a job and I don't know why. Right? We're at that phase. we're not necessarily at the phase of people realizing that you can't get a job because it no longer exists. Like, they're not hiring a human being to do that anymore.
Mhm.
Right. So a lot of people haven't realized, like I said, white collar, blue collar are being affected by this in different ways, but especially the white collar. I think white collar more so now. When we get into robotics and the advancement of robots, like that's when you'll really see the collar jobs start disappearing. But
Well,
you have the, yeah, what are you gonna say?
Well, so I've seen it too, like in HR, like HR departments and stuff like that. Now you have to fill out a ticket and AI evaluates it and stuff like that, just like you do for like these tech tickets and stuff like that. And maybe you'll
Yeah,
get somebody to eventually look at it or whatever, but you can talk about X too, like how the customer service system, right? You get nowhere talking to them. It just the AI doesn't like it doesn't allow you to do anything or whatever. And I've seen it in HR. HR is starting to do, companies are starting to do this with their HR. And so they're going to start downsizing their force or whatever. They're going to have probably minimal staff in the company that are HR people. So that I think that's going to be one of the places where we see a huge impact too. And
yeah,
that's going to be a problem because you need people to look at all these things. You know, people are people. So that's why you have HR people there, because you have these unique circumstances that you have to figure out and you have to solve these problems or whatever. And you're gonna have this endless AI thing where you get absolutely nowhere and you never get an answer and you can never talk to a human being and you never get your problem solved.
yeah, and it's like, well, and to go to her question as far as um going towards socialism, I think when they recognize that they're being blocked out of the market, this isn't necessarily their doing. That there's a greater shift change when it comes to the economy. Um, that's when you'll start seeing people go more and more into wanting the government to do something. And right now, even amongst most Democrats, they're not with UBI. They're just not. A sector of them are, but most of them would be against it because they see fiscally it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Like it, they'll blow up budgets trying to do something like that. But there will be a point where the conversation around UBI is going to get louder. It's going to seem more valid. It's going to be seen as the logical answer, and in many ways, people won't have a choice. Like they just won't. I don't. My biggest issue right now with the drastic increase in AI is not necessarily AI. My biggest issue is that the speed of it, and there's not enough time to get people to do other things that maybe fill in the gaps. There's just not enough time. There's not a big enough marketing campaign. There's not enough push. There's not enough incentives to have people go into areas where human beings are needed. Um, there's just not. And so when we see in 3 to 5 years that 4.4% increases to 6, like it's going to be a problem. Like, and people are going to say, well, what am I supposed to do? Because now I can't even be an Uber driver because they're sending out driverless cars. Right? There's so much technology. It is removing my opportunity to take care of my family. What else am I supposed to do? Because if I go into the store and start stealing shit, you're going to lock me up and put me in jail. Right? So what else am I supposed to do, government? And that's when the socialists are going to say, we have the answer. You can't put the AI back in the bottle. But what we can do is we can start giving you stuff. We can start universal basic income. Everyone gets $5,000 a month.
Yeah.
And just start going from there. And Lord help us, the repercussions that will come from that.
Yeah, we'll be
So,
Venezuela.
yeah, our currency will be worthless. I mean, that's just one of the areas that will come from that. Our currency will be worthless. They'll get rid of the incentive structure, and all that money that everyone thought that they were going to be saving by moving to robots is going to deplete. It's just going to go away because it's not worth anything. Venezuelan dollars are as good as toilet paper. Like, it's just not worth anything. So I think we could be wrong about that. Who knows? But I just don't. I don't see this. I don't see UBI working out in the long term. But I do see the irony in someone like Elon catching a fucking hissy fit with Donald Trump and the Republicans because they didn't cut enough of the federal government. When this guy is setting up an environment where they're going to demand more from the federal government. And guess what? Politicians are going to do it. They're going to do it because it's not their money. If there's enough people screaming and there's enough socialists who are in the Democratic Party, which I foresee will become more and more and more, and there's enough weak Democrats who won't push against socialists, and I've been seeing that now for years. So we're going to come to that point where UBI, when I'll tell you this, there's going to be a point, whether it's 2020, was it 20, probably 2028, when you start seeing on the Democratic Party side, UBI as part of the normal conversation. Well, if I get elected, UBI will be $4,000. Well, I promise to have 5,000. Like, that's going to be, when you see that, that's when you know it's coming. It's coming.
Well, Adam, I know you're on limited time, so I want to try to, with our final time together, connect all of this to the last topic of birth rates. I know you kind of talked, about the threat to the dream of home ownership, less people having kids. So with all the economic pressures and stress and cost, it seems like is changing people's attitudes to having children.
Yeah. I mean, someone has to take care of their kids, and you need the means to do it. Although I'm not one of those people where I don't think there's a perfect scenario to be in to raise kids. Like, I don't know if I'm saying that right, but sometimes people think like, oh, I have to make this amount of money at this time, and we have to live here, and I have to have all these prerequisites before I can have a single child. And I don't think that's the case. If you want children, have children, right? More often than not, you'll figure out ways where you can sustain and take care of your kids. But having a lot of children is a different story. The families that are 5, 6 plus kids are going to become less and less. And I think that's going to be a big part due to economics. It's one thing to take care of one child. It's another thing to take care of 4 or 5 mouths, right? And how are you going to be able to sustain that? And if you're having that many kids, that means that they're of different ages and over extended period of time. So, how are you going to be able to do that for a long period of time? And how do you actually see yourself being able to accomplish that? So I can see why, and it's not just an American thing. It's throughout the West. More and more people are deciding either not to have kids or they're having less kids. And I think economics is a big part. Some of it is just more social. They grew up in homes where family was dysfunctional. It scares them away from actually wanting to create a family. I've seen that. I know some people who are in that situation. That's a different part, but I do think that economics is a big part. Housing is a big part, especially in the United States. But if you talk to Europeans, many of them are like damn near content with never owning anything. And even my adult friends who were, some of them older than me, they got roommates living in these cities, and I'm just like, I mean, they don't have the environment to raise kids, even if they wanted to, unless they do something drastic. So, yeah, I don't know if things are going to get better, but can I say something semi-controversial when it comes to
Please.
when it comes to birth rates? I don't know, because I see human beings as people who adjust. We adjust to all different. When we have a change in our environment, we adjust. when we're talking about low both birth rates in a sustainable society, we're talking about a sustainable society at a particular size more often than not. But if we have less people, then there's less of certain things that we need. And I'm just not fully buying that if we have, I can't think of a percentage, but if we have a percentage less people, that all of a sudden our entire society will just completely fall apart and nothing will function. Like part of me doesn't fully buy that.
Mhm.
Um, I have no numbers. This is pure. This is just my feeling because I've heard the same stuff. If you think of it like this, the climate change lunatics, the first thing they say is don't have kids because the climate.
Mhm.
Everyone's telling you not to have kids. Why? Because the birth rate. Everyone's going towards the birth rate, the birth rate, the birth rate. And I'm like, why are they going towards the birth rate? And so I don't know. I feel like the entire birth rate thing is politicized no matter which direction you're coming from. And so the question is, well, why are they politicizing it? Is because it's a mechanism to advance something.
Mhm.
And I don't know what it is for everybody for every reason, but I just don't completely buy that it is something that our society will just completely fall apart if we only have one or two kids. Like I don't know. Someone's gonna show me something that's gonna prove. I don't. I'm not saying that I'm
Hopefully
right.
do. I mean, that's why we have these conversations, right? I think
Yeah.
like being open-minded and hearing what other people have to say, other opinions, is important in forming and solidifying our own, testing them, challenging them, etc. But I tend to agree with you. I think it's fair to be skeptical. I think a lot of things are politicized, and there's a lot of like scare tactics. And anytime there's sort of like
Right.
these generalizations or like blanket statements or like, I'm always like, oh, so I think it's fair to question that kind of stuff for
Yeah.
sure.
I think is there a birth rate where it's too low? Yeah, I think I can concede there's probably a point where it's too low because we need X amount on average to accomplish whatever we're trying to do. But if it's gradual, um, maybe we our society will change somewhat. Um, but like part of me is thinking like, well, they say low birth rate, but there's not enough people to do certain things, so that's why we need more illegals. And I'm just like, I don't know about that because there's plenty of people who are applying for jobs and they can't get a job. I don't know. I don't know
Mhm.
if that's the case. Middle America, there's tons of people who are getting food stamps because they're underemployed. I don't know if that's the case. Do we really need illegals because there's low birth rate? There's not enough workers. I don't know if that's the case.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I don't know about that. That's just my speculation. Could be 1000% wrong, and someone can show me a bunch of stuff. But I don't know. It doesn't pass the smell test for me. I don't, I'm not an alarmist when it comes to low birth rates.
Yeah. Is there anything that you think, like incentive wise, that could be done financially to encourage people to? I mean, I agree with you. I think so. In a lot of the things that I've seen, I think it's cited a common reason that things are too expensive.
Yeah.
There's insufficient money, particularly like you said, for maybe not having more children or as many children as people might want to. Um, any incentives that you think might, help with this?
I think everything is economics.
Hmm.
So if you set up an environment where people can increase their economics, then people will do certain things that they feel free that they're able to do. We'll take more vacations. We'll have more children, right? They'll do all of these different things. Um, they'll make they'll live happier lives because they're able to sustain their life without being dependent on someone else or some other entity, right? So, and that also means in the business environment, lower lower taxes for businesses, especially employment taxes. Set up an environment where they're not being squeezed. Have a more level playing field. Get rid of illegal immigrants coming into this country. Set up a better immigration situation where we're going to immigrants as a last case scenario, not as a first case scenario. right? Maximizing the American ingenuity that you have here. Set up an environment where we have a better education system. Like there's a lot of different things. Some of it individually we have no control over, but other things are systemic that we have to have a different culture that puts emphasis on stuff that will actually benefit us. But I think if we had a better economic incentive structure, um, more people would want to actually have children. And maybe we need to have a new cultural framework too, because you know lots of people were poorer than what we are today, and they had plenty of children, and these are Americans many decades ago. Um, so why do we feel like we are less capable of having more kids when generations previously were poor, had less, and had more children? Everything turned out fine for them. So maybe part of it is a culture thing. Maybe we all don't need BMWs and Mercedes. Maybe we all don't need the biggest, we don't need a McMansion to raise two kids. Like maybe we are wanting too much. And I'm not trying to say that as like some communist, like you're not allowed to have stuff, but sometimes it's like we set up these really high expectations and we want to be uber comfortable, right? You want the latest and greatest technology and all this stuff, and all of it costs money. And maybe we should just have like a bit of a shift. And maybe not everyone should live in New York City, the most expensive city in the country. Like maybe that's not the best environment to raise children. So
Well, yeah, I appreciate all of your thoughts on all of this. It's an interesting, conversation going on in the chat as well about like, if AI is taking over jobs, why have more children that will be jobless when they get, I think there's just a lot of those based on all of these topics that we discussed today, how they sort of intersect and connect and relate to one another, especially like you said, with the economy and affordability and all of that, connected to having kids. So just a lot of concerns. And
yeah.
Adam, you bring so much knowledge to the conversation, and Jay as well, both of your perspectives and backgrounds and experiences, as well as potential solutions and what people can do to at least, like you said, speak up, educate, raise awareness, and in terms of voting and all of that, getting involved, taking action, the call to action. So yeah, I really appreciate all of that. It's been such an insightful, informative conversation, I think, for everyone. And I appreciate all of the chat and audience weighing in as well. Adam, I know you got to go. Any final thoughts? People need to definitely check out your article that we were referencing in the stream today. Thanks so much for being here. But yeah, any final thoughts for you?
I guess people are talking about having kids. If you want to have children, don't base it on the economy. Don't base it on who's in office. Have children, right? If that's something that you want, do it wisely. Find the right partner. Don't just impregnate women because you don't like to pull out, Elon. Like, just be smart about it. Be a good parent. Be a good father, mother. These are things that you have control over. Because the economy is going to get better and it's going to get worse, right? And life is always going to introduce new hurdles. It's going to fluctuate. But if you want children, and children are a blessing, have children. I understand the hesitation economically, but at the end of the day, children are more than some economic leech, I mean, they're not economic leeches, right? But you should think a little bit more than how much money you're able to make. I'm not rich. I was never rich. Much of my adulthood, raising my son, I wasn't doing that great economically, but I was able to take care of my son. We were able to figure it out, and human beings adjust. So whatever comes in our direction, whether it's AI, robotics, whatever, we'll figure out a way. Plenty of people who are way poorer than all of us have way more children. They figure out a way. Struggle, you figure things out. but you can still raise happy and healthy kids.
Well, it's definitely clear to me that you're an amazing father from all of the conversations that I've had with
Thank you.
you. And I appreciate that. I think it's a great modeling and messaging for other people. Adam, you rock. Everybody go follow and support Adam wherever you can, please. And Adam, always thank you so much for your time. And yeah, thank you so much for being here today. I know you had to leave, but we'll talk to you real soon.
All right. I'll talk to you guys soon. Check out my Substack, adambcoleman.substack.com. Jay, once again, it was good having you on the panel. We'll talk later. And Angela, thank you again. I'll see you.
Yeah, see you soon. Thanks, Adam. So yeah, sorry, I'm trying not to mess everything up while I say goodbye to, okay. He's so good at that. He's like a ninja. He just like, I was like, oh, I'm gonna remove him. And then he just like, he was already out of his chair and then just poof.
Perfect.
Yeah. So Jay, any final thoughts for you on any of this stuff, or just anything, any last things you want to say?
No, I just want to point people to check out Adam's article. It's really fantastic. It's like I said, I think it's going to come from us, educating the public, having spaces, having lives, talking about these issues is how we're going to, bring awareness to this and get it under control. If not, we're going to watch it eat us alive. So hopefully people, are watching this. Hopefully people check out his article because it's really important what they're saying. And you saw, some of the flaws and even what Elon's saying, and he's, somebody who's pushing for more of this technology. So just Elon is a human being, and also, the other people that are designing these other AIs are also human beings. So we need to educate ourselves so that we can try and, I guess, combat some of the bad.
Thanks, Jay. Everyone go check him out, find him, follow him, give him all the love on X. Jay, you're such a gem. I always enjoy seeing you and talking with you. You're so sweet, and I appreciate you as a human. So thank you so much for your time and thoughts on all these streams as well.
Thank you for having me. I love your show. I appreciate you, and I will come anytime you want and when I can. Thank
well,
you so
I'm glad
much.
you have a life. Like, I'm glad you have,
Yeah.
like dinner with friends and things like that going on.
Yep.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
You rock. Have a good one.
You rock too. I'll see you soon.
All right.
Thanks, Jay. Guys, I can't tell you how much I appreciated this stream today, and it's not quite done yet. We got a little more time together. So I just wanted to say, I thank you guys so much for the chat. It's been popping today. And I'm really enjoying reading all of your thoughts, comments as well. So please keep doing that, because it really adds so much to the conversation. The more people, perspectives, experiences that we can bring into it, the better. So I do try as much as possible to keep up with it and bring it in so that we can all interact together. So I do want to say that. So if there are any, while we have a little more time here wrapping up, any other comments, questions for me, we can do a little Q&A if you want to. So feel free to do that. In the meantime, I'm going to give you a little teaser, little preview for the Bold Talk podcast episode releasing tomorrow. So as most of you know, the Bold Talk podcast episodes are weekly, and they release on Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So there's a new one coming at you tomorrow with my guest is Owen Schroyer. Owen, if you don't know, is a journalist, talk show host. He was with InfoWars for like a decade and has just kind of branched out now and is doing his own thing called the Owen Report. It's cool to have these conversations with people because, again, like, them from from social media, from their content, from their posts, but it's really cool to have an actual conversation and, learn more about their background. So, I got to talk to Owen a little bit more about, growing up in Missouri and sports. And speaking, I saw Smashing Pumpkins. Yes, I got a little Smashing Pumpkins shirt going on. We actually did talk about 90s alternative rock being my favorite genre of music, and also his. So it's funny because you have these conversations and you realize you actually have so much in common. I think I even changed Owen's mind because I think he thought we were very, very different just based on me being a bold lib. And, you know, again, by talking with each other and having this dialogue and we actually connect and have so much in common. So that's a big part of these conversations that has been lovely. Just more about his background, political journey, and you get a better sense of someone's personality based on these interviews too, and the video component. So it's been really, really fun. So I'm going to play you a little preview of tomorrow's episode.
They got to be bold. You know, I voted for Trump 3 times, and I did a lot of my career work supporting Donald Trump for president. And I've been very critical of Donald Trump for about the last 4 or 5 months. And that's because that's how I see it. That's how I see things. I see things happening that I don't like. And so I call them out. When things happen that I do like, I call those out too. But what I saw in this is that some people just, they don't even want the news, or they can get triggered by the news, or they just want to hear that Trump is the best thing ever. And so, you know, when I started just reporting things as I see them that weren't, hey, Trump is the greatest thing ever, a lot of people got mad, and we've kind of reached a new point now of no return, I think, on right-wing politics, at least for probably till up to the midterms or after maybe, where this divide on the right, where you're either going to be a total Trump loyalist, or you're going to agree with this foreign policy, or you're going to somehow be left out or gate kept out or something like that. And a lot of these people that are mad at me for telling the truth, as I see it, they weren't there in 2016. They weren't there in 2020. I was. So it's been a wild ride.
So there you have it, a little teaser trailer of tomorrow's episode. Again, this is Bold Talk Podcast, which releases on Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern time. If you head to the link in my bio and follow over there on Rumble, you will be sure to not miss an episode or stream. You can watch all of the previous ones there. So please, please, please check it out. I'm excited to bring you another one. So it's a really great interview. And I enjoy it. As you can see, there's something in common there with, you know, the promoting having conversations and being able to disagree. And, you know, he kind of talks about mainstream media and biases and stuff like that, which I think, you know, we're all kind of have been questioning, and it just feels like a time where we all can find things to come together on. And, so that's a really beautiful thing. So I hope you enjoy that episode. Let me see real quick. I see some comments here. David, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Matt, I appreciate the love. You guys are so sweet. Thank you for the support. Thank you so much. And we got Apple Greats. Oh, you were also in radio. So Owen was in radio. Owen started out in radio. Met all the 90s artists. Oh my gosh. I need to see. Can you DM me some photos? I want to see tons of pictures. Oh my gosh. You must have incredible stories and experiences. I'm very jealous. That's awesome. I love it. You guys rock. So I appreciate you all so much. I appreciate my guests so much. Adam, you know, writes these incredible, really informative articles. I got so much, you know, sometimes you read stuff and it's like, it's super intelligent, but it was like, I was able to understand it and grasp it all. Like he writes it in such a way that like, I feel like, you know, we understand what he's saying. There's some things that are written and I'm like, huh? Like it just kind of goes over my head. But I feel like Adam has a great way and a great voice So yeah, so definitely check him out, his articles, the one we were referencing today. Jay is awesome. The guests that have been on the stream have been incredible. I'm so thankful for all of them taking the time to participate in these conversations, as well as all of you. That's right, Network Access Group. It's AXIS, but I know it sounds like Access sometimes as well, depending on who's saying it. Check them out. They're the best. But yeah, so Bold Chat live streams happen every Tuesday at 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So in case you don't know, these streams are happening every Tuesday and Thursday. Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thursdays are at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. They're happening weekly at this point. And then the Bold Talk podcast episodes are Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, link in bio, follow on Rumble so you don't miss anything. Thanks to NAG. Thanks to my guest. Thanks to all of you for tuning in, especially around the holidays. I know there's a lot going on. Thanks for all the love and support. I really appreciate it. All of the kind comments. It means the world to me. I truly. And so as we approach Thanksgiving, I do really want to say I am thankful and grateful for all of you. I couldn't do this without you. And I'm just really happy to be able to do this right now regularly. So thank you guys so much. And I wish you beautiful holidays ahead. I know it's weird. I'm in Florida in like 80-degree weather. I'm doing something so mean right now. Not really, like jokingly, but I'm not a mean person. But something that's happening right now is like all my New York friends, because I just moved a few months ago. I've spent the past 12 years in New York City and have been celebrating the holidays there where it's cold and, all that jazz. And right now I'm in Florida and it's 80s and I've been like outside by the pool and like on the lake. And so I've been, evilly sending photos to my New York friends who are like freezing and bundled up of like me by the pool, or like there's like a fire pit and I'm just like chilling outside. It's basically I'm just trying to encourage them to come visit and escape the harsh New York winter for a little bit. But so that's me being me and sending them all my, me in Florida and 80-degree weather photos. And happy Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas, kind of stuff. But no, sending all the love. And guys, thank you so much. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. I'm about to go do some kickboxing cardio class, which is a great form of self-care. So in case you didn't know, that's one of my self-care strategies. That's my little mental health tidbits of information for the day. Feel free to tell me your self-care strategies. Cardio kickboxing is a lot of fun if you've never done it. So I'm about to go ahead to that class. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Thanks, NAG. I will see you next. Hopefully you tune in for the podcast tomorrow. Otherwise, I'll see you on the Bold Chat live stream on Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard. Thanks, guys, so much. Have a great rest of your week. Stay bold.